You open your banking app on payday. The number looks good, everything feels fine, but almost immediately that balance begins to drop. The large, mandatory expenses strike first. Your rent or mortgage payment takes the biggest bite right off the top. Then come the secondary costs, groceries, utilities, and a handful of digital subscriptions that quietly auto-draft while you sleep. Finally, the discretionary spending creeps in. A few takeout orders during the week, a couple of casual purchases, and suddenly the remaining cash is practically gone before the next check even clears. Standard financial advice tells you to fix this by tracking every single dollar. You're told to build a complex spreadsheet and manually categorize every cup of coffee. But most people abandon that approach within 3 days. Human beings simply do not have the cognitive endurance to micromanage every single financial decision they make. Think of your income like a disorganized closet. When items of completely different utility are randomly piled together, it eventually becomes impossible to find what you actually need. The same thing happens with your money. When you pool all your expenses, from essential housing to weekend entertainment, into one single mental category, the result is total financial chaos. The inability to save money is rarely a problem of excessive overspending or a lack of willpower. The anxiety and the empty bank accounts happen because you are operating without a clear, rigid structure for the money coming in. That brings us to the 50-30-20 rule. Instead of exhausting micro-tracking, this framework relies on 3 simple macro-level buckets. This diagram shows the core breakdown. If your baseline income is $4,000 a month after taxes, the first 50%, or exactly $2,000, is allocated entirely to your absolute needs. If you live in a high-cost city, housing might legitimately push that category to 60%, and that is perfectly fine. This framework is meant to be a guideline for balance, not a rigid cage. The next 30%, achieving nearly $500,000 here relies purely on the consistency of the system, not on luck or lottery-style returns. People typically fail financially not because they pick bad stocks, but because their lack of budgeting structure never leaves any capital left over to actually invest. When you impose a rigid macro structure, you remove the volatility of human decision-making. By making the allocation automatic, you ensure that capital is consistently working for you, regardless of your daily motivation. By pre-calculating your limits, you remove the constant need for mental math when you're standing at a checkout counter. Every dollar has a pre-assigned purpose, which clears the fog of "can I afford this?" before you even open your wallet. This framework introduces the concept of permission. Spending from your defined 30% bucket removes the guilt often associated with non-essential purchases. Compare that intentionality to the persistent anxiety of pulling from one unstructured bank account, where you're never quite sure if a dinner out today will compromise a bill due tomorrow. By clearly defining what is allowed, the 50-30-20 rule transforms budgeting from a system of restriction into a system of permission. When your financial boundaries are clear, human behavior improves automatically, without requiring forced discipline. The heavy lifting is outsourced to the structure itself, entirely replacing the need to rely on daily willpower. Try applying this macro structure for just 30 days. Divide your incoming cash into these 3 strict buckets and observe how your behavior naturally shifts. True financial freedom is found the exact moment you stop wondering where your money went and start actively dictating exactly where it goes.